my sort of two main bands by 1974 were the Hatfields and Gong, and I used to go. Me and my friends used to sort of trek along to various distant parts of London to further education colleges or obscure university campuses, and catch a Hatfields or a Gong gig, and then wonder how on earth we were going to get home, because we were sort of 20 miles out in the northeastern suburbs of London, and there was lots of adventures about how you got back from one of these gigs. But so I guess I started off being a fan. I left school and went to Oxford University. And at Oxford, there was, at that point, so now talking 1975, there was a very lively, what we would call alternative scene. So although I was supposedly studying history, there was just all this stuff going on. It had its own annual festival, an annual free festival. I joined the organising committee of that. We had to raise money to put the festival on. I met Maddie, daughter of Lowell, who lived around Oxford at that time, and she was part of the general scene and had a little shop. Maddie was extremely helpful in the organising gigs and festivals process. Because of her father, she knew all the people that I wanted to know. So it was no problem at all she gave me Dave Stewart's phone number in Homerton, and I got Hatfield to come up and do a benefit. No, it wasn't Hatfield's, it was National Health. And I got them to come up and do a benefit for the festival. And that was Phil remembers that gig well. It was the one where Amanda Parsons was singing. So it was the classic lineup with Neil Murray, Dave Stewart, Pip, Phil, and Amanda singing. And
Alan Gowan.
And Alan. And they did Tenemos Roads and Elephants and all that stuff. And it was at one point there was a well-known Oxford character in the audience who was a street person who was a bit crazy, and he was called Jesus George, and he was sort of standing up in the audience and swaying around, and basically kept a stream of I don't know how to put it. It was basically telling Amanda that she was the most beautiful, she was a kind of a goddess, and she had to come away with him. And I think about halfway through the gig, Amanda just lost it, because he was right up near the front of the stage by then, swaying around and just kind of generally annoying her. And she chucked a pint of beer over him. And that caused somewhat of a stir. I think some people thought, yeah, good for her, and other people thought, oh, that was a bit full on or whatever. But it's fun anyway. That gig was remembered by, well, every Hatfield I've talked to actually remembers that, or every National Health person I talk to remembers that gig, just for the rather dubious reason. So then later, of course, I think it would have been the following year. I think this would have had to be 1977 or no, maybe 78. The main venue for such things in Oxford, the crucial venue in Oxford, was the Poly, what is now Oxford Brookes University, and it had a particularly good social secretary for the student union, and they used to get whatever bands were touring Britain at any point. Oxford Poly always managed to get them to come, and I think even to the extent, because at one point, and at this same point, I think Gong were all living up not to the north of Oxford. They're all living up the place up towards where the Manor Studios were. and I think that when they did Shamal, that they used Oxford Poly as a kind of, let's try out the set live before we take it out on a big tour.
Right. Yeah, there's a recording of that.
Oh, I remember that gig well. But so Oxford Poly was this really good and very trendy venue, and there came this point, I think it was 78 in fact, could even have been 79. Lol was in the States touring and had a bad car crash, and I think basically a lot of his teeth were knocked out. So that was a real crisis for Lol to be able to play, and Maddie was quite distressed, and she told me about it, and she said, you know, that he's going to need a lot of dental work done if he's going to be able to, you know, just get back to playing and earning a living again. And we thought, well, this is a pretty serious crisis. So a bunch of us decided we would organise a Lol Coxhill teeth repair benefit, and we did. And we asked various people to play. I remember getting in touch with, it's the first time I got in touch with Robert Wyatt to see if he'd be prepared to play, and he wrote me, sent me a lovely postcard back saying how much he, you know, loved Lol and was so sorry for the situation, and he felt really regretful that he didn't feel up to being able to come and do that, which was just as well, because the gig itself was on a night where there was a blizzard and snow conditions were very serious, and people were trying to get to Oxford and the roads were blocked and blah, blah, blah. But the gig went ahead. Who did come? Well, it was National Health again.
I think it was the second gig with Alan Gowan, I mean, by the last lineup.
And Greaves. Yeah. So it was that lineup. And I think...
Steve Miller played, right?
Miller. I mean,
L'Oreal
Stephen Miller, yeah. Brought his sort of trio. So I think that was basically the gig. I think it was National Health with Stephen Miller Band.
Just a postscript to what you just said is that Lol actually turned up and played, right?
Incognito. He turned up in disguise. Yeah. I don't remember him actually playing, but he was there. Yeah, and it was a secret. Yeah, I didn't recognise him. I think he did. I think the disguise was good. I didn't know till afterwards that he'd come along.
Wow.